In this video, we're going to be identifying x-intercepts of a quadratic function. So we're going to also describe the graph as well. So we're going to describe the graph of f of x equals negative x squared plus 6x minus 8, and then we're going to identify any x-intercepts. So to do this, we're going to complete the square first, and that's going to allow us to put our quadratic function into standard form. And then we're going to factor it, and that's going to give us our x-intercepts. So let's go ahead and let's start by writing down our problem. So negative x squared plus 6x minus 8 equals 0. And we're going to go ahead by starting by adding our 8 to the other side. So now we have negative x squared plus 6x equals 8. And then we're going to divide both sides by negative 1. And we're going to do that so we get rid of that negative in the front. So we have x squared minus 6x equals negative 8. And then we're going to kind of set this up to stage it for completing the square. So we're going to have x squared minus 6x plus leave a space equals negative 8 plus leave a space. Then from here, we're going to take our b value, which is negative 6. Then we're going to divide it by 2. And square it. So that's going to give us a negative 3 squared, which is a 9. That 9 is going to go into our plus leave a spaces. So plus 9, and we're going to get to write this portion right there as the difference of squares. Or not the difference of squares rather, but as a square. And so that is going to give us an x. And because this is a minus 3, then we're going to put a minus 3 right here. So x minus 3 quantity squared equals, and then we're going to see what exactly is negative 8 plus 9, and that number is going to go here, which is a 1. And then we have to look back. Did we multiply or divide by any number in the very beginning? So we're going to look back to here, and we see that we divided by a negative 1. So we're going to multiply both sides by a negative 1. So then we're going to take that, kind of out of space, we're going to come up here. So now we have negative x minus 3 quantity squared equals a negative 1. And then from here, we're going to go ahead and we're going to add our 1 over so that we can put this in standard form. So now we have negative x minus 3 quantity squared plus 1 equals 0. And so here we see that our negative sign in the front is going to tell us this is going to reflect across the x-axis. Our minus 3 tells us that we're going to go to the right 3 places. And our plus 1 tells us that we're going to go up 1. And so that's kind of the description of how this is going to look. So we've just described our graph. And now we're going to identify the x-intercepts. And so to do that, we're going to factor. So we're going to take our negative x squared plus 6x minus 8, set it equal to 0. And again, we're going to divide everything by negative 1, so both sides. And that's going to give us an x squared minus 6x plus 8 equals 0. So we are looking for two numbers that will multiply to a positive 8, but will add to a negative 6. And so here we could use a negative 4 and a negative 2, which will give us x minus 4 and x minus 2 equals 0. And now we're going to use the zero product property and set each of those equal to 0. And that's going to give us an answer of 4 and an answer of 2. So these are going to be our x-intercepts. And so we're going to write those as 4, 0 and 2, 0. And so here we see that we have our x-intercepts and we have the description of our graph. And we can double check that description. So we have In our y1 spot, we have our parent function. In our y2 spot, we have our graph. And if we graph those, we see that it is reflected across the x-axis. It is moved to the right 3, and it has moved up 1, just as we described.